And welcome back, Shalom. So he goes and helps out Dominic Chianese, who does a really good job in this film. He ends up turning in some valuable photos that show John Forsythe being involved in this S&M ring at a later point of the movie. There's so much that happens in this movie, I might as well just tell you everything, and when you see it again, you may or may not even remember what happens in it. So Christine Lottie is some lady that's like on some ethics board investigating not only him but other people for minor ethics violations. They're not going after the big fish, and he's kind of mad about that. So they have this attraction that's based on their like antagonism in their court of law. So Jack Warden takes him out flying in a helicopter, and then when it crashes, he doesn't really even apologize. He just goes and tells him, hey, you better take this case that John Forsythe's involved in. John Forsythe's accused of a brutal rape and all this stuff. So you better take his case, or they're going to throw you out because of some minor thing that happened in another case that you were involved in. So they basically like blackmail him, or whatever you want to call that. So John Forsythe's accused of rape. He's like the most famous or stern judge in the town and all that. So Jeffrey Tambor from Three's Company and Larry Sanders Show and a bunch of other stuff. He plays this co-lawyer friend of Al Pacino from his firm, and that Larry Frisdale, he plays the other guy. And they just think this is hilarious that John Forsythe's involved in this case and wants Al Pacino to represent them. Al Pacino really doesn't want to do it, but he thinks he can get McCullough out of jail. Now, McCullough is this guy who has got the same name as a killer who they picked up for some broken taillight, and because of a bunch of different circumstances, he's just been in jail over a year, and he's getting brutally beaten and other stuff when he's in jail. So it's a really sad situation for this McCullough, and I thought that actor did a really good job in portraying that character. Now, later in the movie, that character actually takes people hostage, and Al Pacino has to intervene, and then McCullough is actually shot from like afar by a sharpshooter. Thought that scene was kind of predictable as it was happening, but executed really well. I feel really bad for the McCullough character. And then Ralph, who's the transvestite, Ralph actually is supposed to... Okay, so Jeffrey Tambor's character, the lawyer, he has like a nervous breakdown because a guy that he represents ends up killing someone once he's found innocent of killing someone. So he's a bad guy and he kills more people. So Jeffrey Tambor is upset that guy killed more people, and so he has a breakdown where he starts throwing plates from the kitchen all over the place at people, and Jack Warden and Al Pacino have to like run with their briefcases and dodge all these plates because he's just throwing them left and right. He should never be let free of a crazy house again, but then they let him free later in the movie. He shaves his head, shorter than my hair is shaved as a lawyer. It's pretty shocking. So then as it continues, Al Pacino's not able to go to a court appearance to help out the transvestite Ralph. And so Ralph, instead of, wanting to be in jail in this circumstance, gets, 3 years or some large sentence and can't do anything about it, and then hangs himself. So now, it just culminates from there. Al Pacino's got on his conscience that Ralph is dead, that McCullough is dead, that Jeffrey Tambor's had a nervous breakdown, and that his client got set free and killed more people, and John Forsythe, this lawyer or this judge that he doesn't want to have to represent, and he's representing him. So Craig T. Nelson thinks this is his big fish. He's this, prosecutor. He's going to bring down John Forsythe, and Al Pacino, he tells him, you better represent John Forsythe and do the best possible thing ever, because this is a big Super Bowl for me. This is going to make my career. So everyone's kind of using Al Pacino for their own reasons. So he goes into courtroom one day, and you think he's actually going to do his job and, defend this horrible person that John Forsythe, you learn him to be. But instead, he does in his argument lay out the whole case and how Craig T. Nelson's all about himself and how the whole system's corrupt. And then he turns to John Forsythe and says that, basically he's a guilty rapist and all this. He's a horrible man. And Jack Warden, being the judge in this case, there's pressure on him to get this done, and he wants this to be smooth because he's, a suicidal judge and beholden to the power system. And John Forsythe and all these other judges calls Al Pacino out of order, and then that's when Al Pacino does his famous line, "You're out of order, the whole place is out of order, da 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 da." And then he leaves the courtroom. Christine Lahti, who's on the ethics commission, whistles in praise of him, but honestly, I'm sure they're going to bring him up on ethics charges shortly after this whole trial farce gets done. So he taints the jury pool. Becomes a big headline story. I would imagine that John Forsythe is declared a rapist by his own attorney. And then at the end, Al Pacino's just kind of staring and sitting on the stairs, looking forward, and then sees Jeffrey Tambor come in with a wig covering up his bald head and kind of acting like everything's fine and he's going back to work. And Al Pacino just kind of looks at the camera or looks off and just like, what? And that's how the movie ends. And so I'd say Norman Jewis, director, he did a really good job with this film. As it's going on, I feel it's more like an episodic TV show at times, but yet it's got a pretty good conclusion to it. But you'd always like to know what happens to these characters after the movie. If anyone has any ideas about what would happen with Al Pacino's character and everyone else, I wouldn't like to see a sequel really, but just to have some of this stuff wrapped up, like does John Forsythe to go down for murder or go down for rape and all that. So Norman Jewison, he did a great job in The Heat of the Night, one of the better movies I've seen in a while. I believe I posted a review of that on the channel. Check this movie out. And Justice for All, a great performance by Al Pacino and everyone else involved. Really good screenplay by Barry Levinson and Valerie Curtin. And Norman Jewison also made Moonstruck. He made the legal drama The Hurricane. A lot of underrated movies through the years. So check out more of his work on story, which this does kind of remind me of it sometimes, based on that there's a lot going on in this story and other stories around the main story. All right, so thank you so much, and shalom. Have a great day.